Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. This is not going to be a rant. It will be a bit longer because there's just so much happening right now with respect to the energy behind fighting. I mean, it's combat, mortal combat against the anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, anti-self-defense people. And they are desperate. They are desperate in their efforts to try to figure out what to do now that the Bruin decision was handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court. It's almost crazy to watch. For example, the state of New York has got several of their laws enjoined now. New Jersey just got bitch slapped by the federal court with temporary restraining orders. Now remember, you can't get a temporary restraining order unless the judge believes that the plaintiff, the ones that's requesting it, has a good chance of winning on the merits. And so what these states have done is they have this whole laundry list of things, primarily making their entire state a prohibited place or a sensitive area. I mean, tons of those in New York, New Jersey. Maryland just came out with an identical set of bills they want to put in place that look just like New Jersey and New York. California, the governor has come up with some new anti-gun laws. A lot of this now has to deal with taxing our right, insurance, making gun owners have to pay exorbitant amounts of money for the privilege. That is unconstitutional on its face. You cannot have a poll tax or tax a citizen for an enumerated right. You just can't do that, but they don't care. They don't care. They're saying, see you in court. Now, what I believe the end result is going to be is an unforeseen consequence that they're not betting on. One, I think the whole idea of permitting will go away because it's a right. And how you carry, whether you show your firearm or your weapon or you don't, is absolutely irrelevant. What is the difference? What is the difference between having a weapon or an arm that someone can see or a weapon or an arm that someone cannot see? If you have a right to carry it and you have a right to carry it in public. So the fight is going to be for those, where can you not? Where can government say you cannot carry any weapon? Now, my sense is, especially in view of the New Jersey ruling and the Illinois rulings that have just come out, there's so many temporary restraining orders in federal court that the anti-gun movement is a dead man walking. It's a dead man walking. And they're going to have to figure something else out because they cannot stop citizens from exercising a Second Amendment right, an enumerated right in public. And then they cannot restrict the places so onerous that you can't carry anywhere except on your own property, which is kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to put so many of these places out that the courts will come back and say, well, this one is okay. Frankly, the only ones that are not okay, and it should not be up to government to determine that. For example, prisons, jails. I mean, that's a blinding flash of the obvious. Cops don't even carry inside confinement areas unless they are responding to a violent situation, and then there's a whole process for them to do that. Cops just don't walk into a jail. They just don't walk into a confinement place armed. They usually check them, and that's just protocol. But it's not government saying you have to do that. That's just, in their instance, is common sense. Carrying in a courtroom. Government doesn't have to say that. The presiding judge can say, in my courtroom, there will not be anyone armed. And say to the bailiff or say to whoever screens people, I don't care how you do it, but I will not have anyone armed in my courtroom. Right? But that doesn't mean the legislature gets to pass a law about that. And oh, by the way, any government place that says where the citizen has to do business there, where the citizen has to do business there, and the government says, well, you can't carry in here, you have metal detectors and all that, fine. Where are you going to put my firearm and secure it while I'm doing business inside this government facility? You see where I'm going with that? I don't know how many people are thinking like that. Now, to come back to the anti-gun people who say they absolutely are crazy about blocking citizens carrying firearms anywhere in public, they're going to lose that fight. They're going to lose that fight. I mean, private owners can say on their property, what can and cannot be carried there. Right? I don't believe that government and these these no gun signs having force of law will go away. I mean, a private entity can say put up no gun signs, so you know, but they can ask you to leave. Because a no gun sign is not going to prevent a person with bad intent from bringing anything inside that area. But their security or whoever can say to you, sir, ma'am, we need you to disarm and we need you to take your firearm outside of here. And then you get to decide if you want to do business in that place, whether it's a mall or a theater, bowling alley, or whatever. And I think I think you have businesses that become gun friendly, and like anything else, the market will decide. The market will decide. If a school or school district is going to say you can't carry in here, then what they have to do is they have to have screening for everyone. And then before you go in, they have to tell you, sorry, you can't carry in here. Right? They can do that. But the governing law is going to go away. It's going to go away. Now let's talk about the types of arms that can be banned. Well, the effort to ban AR-15s, AK style, or any other semi-automatic rifle or pistol or shotgun is dead in the water. It's going to die. Those efforts, whether they're currently laws on the books or there are attempts to put those kind of laws on the books, they're going to die. Because the Bruin decision says if it's in common use, and common use does not mean you pulling the trigger. Common use means owned, possessed in the sense of the law. Owned or possessed. Otherwise, you'd have 400 million, 40 million people out shooting ARs every day, which just doesn't happen. So use in the sense of common use means they're commonly possessed for lawful purposes. Lawful purposes, self-defense is just one lawful purpose, right? So bans on those common weapons, those common arms, and the same will be true for blades, by the way. That's coming. Those will go away. Now, what does that mean for America? What does that mean for America? It means that an armed society is a polite society. It means that people with bad intent, like here in Idaho, we don't have a gang problem that preys on citizens, right? We just had a robbery, armed robbery, in a stop and rob. Why? because the stop and rob, the clerks are not armed. And they pick the times, they look and see who's in the store. And then they go in very quickly, and then they get their crime done and get out quickly. Which, by the way, is when I go into a stop and rob, which is frequently, I never just walk in. I always stop. I'm in my car. I look through the big glass windows that I all have. I see who's in there. I see what's going on. I slowly walk to the door while I'm scanning what I can see. Then I always go to the back of the store and I make a loop around before getting what I need and going to the cash register, because I'm armed, right? One, if something's going to go down, I want to have cover. And two, I want to be able to respond if I'm able to respond. I never just walk right into someplace without giving any thought, right? As an example. But I want to come back to the idea that the anti-self-defense, anti-Second Amendment effort is like a dying cockroach right now. It's like a dying cockroach. It's quivering. It's been stuck with so many lawsuits, it is mind-boggling. And there are other YouTube channels that actually cover the details of those. But there's so many. And we're winning them. And they're starting with temporary TROs, temporary restraining orders. That stops the law in its tracks from being implemented. And it's so bad that in New York and New Jersey, can't go anywhere. Illinois was local for 860 some plaintiffs, and now the entire state cannot enforce their recent anti-gun laws. And that's happening across the country. And as each one of those things puts a stake in the heart of the state, there's no do-overs. They're not going to come back under Bruin. They're not going to come back and win. They have an unwinnable situation. Now, if I was those people and I really felt that I want public spaces safe, I would say, okay, what am I going to do? As a politician, I want to make sure that anyone who uses a weapon in the commission of a crime, you can't plea bargain it, minimum sentence, and it's a long time. There's no plea bargain, right? And I don't give a shit how young you are. If you're 10 years old and you decide you want to jack a car, say goodbye to mom and daddy. If you have a daddy, right? Just say goodbye to them, because we're putting your ass away and it's not going to be in some juvenile facility, right? If you want to feel froggy, you little punk ass dudes out there that are in the teens and think you're invulnerable, if you want to feel froggy, go ahead and jump, because that's what's about to happen next, because that's how you control gang crime. First, you let the citizens kill them in the act of them committing a crime, and that's starting to happen. They're failing the room temperature test all over the country, committing all kinds of crimes. Now, there's an unforeseen consequence of that, and that is because bad guy's going to bad guy, right? Bad guy's going to bad guy. An unforeseen consequence might be that once a person decides they want to do a crime, especially a violent crime, knowing that their shit's raggedy and they're going to end up spending a long time in prison, not jail, there's no incentive for them to keep the victim alive. So you will have an increase in lethality. You'll have a reduction in the amount of those kind of crimes. But the ones that do happen will be more lethal to the victim. Yeah. Why? Because criminals are still going to criminal. Bad guys are still going to bad guy. And they're going to do the calculus that says, hey, why should I leave a witness? Why should I leave a witness alive? And because I'm gonna go away for a long time anyway. And if I'm in a state that doesn't have a death penalty, you know, so I might get 20 years, 25 years, right? So those are some things to think about. But in the meantime, the message being sent will be the right message, and it won't be to disarm citizens. Won't be to disarm citizens. So I, there's so much going on, and I think it's good. Yes, things are working their way through the courts, but it's at lightning speed that things are happening. And that's why I say the anti-Second Amendment movement, wherever it lives, whatever tentacles it has, is like a dying cockroach, right? And hopefully I'm still alive when I see full freedom, even in the free state of Idaho, because we have prohibited. We don't have a lot of prohibited places. We only have maybe 3, right? But look at Texas. Look at Florida. Florida is not going to be constitutional carry unless they now enable open carry, and they get rid of all these prohibited places like bars, theaters, and places of neighborhood nuisance, call those strip clubs in Florida, right? And the same in Texas, right? You get rid of all that stuff and people are able to carry where they work, where they play, all of that. Then we'll have a free country again. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. February 1st, 2023. I'm excited. You should be too, because I think things are really going in our favor. Now, when I say carry at the end of my thing, when I say carry on, I mean carry on. Wherever you can, whenever you can, whatever you can, carry on.